Who's the most prolific actor of all time? What about one of the highest grossing? You might think it would be someone like Samuel L. Jackson, Robert Downey Jr., or even Tom Cruise. You would be wrong, because there is currently one man with over 900 separate acting credits across decades of iconic movies, television shows, and even video games. This is Frank Welker, and while most people may know him as the ominous and evil voice of Decepticon leader Megatron, I promise you that he has been in almost every iconic property you have ever seen. So who is Frank Welker? And how far does his influence on entertainment go?
This is how you make a lion's roar, and it's better with a waste paper basket. You put your head in her.
Welker, as you might have guessed, is a voice actor, and to put it more bluntly, a professional noisemaker. Snakes, bears, dogs, dragons, alien cows. Welker has lent his growls, snarls, roars, snorts, and grunts to some of the biggest films ever made. However, his influence and work stretches far beyond that, and across the entire spectrum of cinema and pop culture. Frank Welker was born in 1946 and spent his youth in Denver. Understandably, he had to get the hell out of Colorado as soon as he came of age. Discovering a passion for entertainment, he attended Santa Monica College. There, he obtained a degree in the performing arts. One of his earliest acclaimed roles was that college's performance of The Wizard of Oz, where Welker played the Cowardly Lion. Praised and awarded for the performance, it would be far from the last time he growled and snarled his way to acting success. While in college, Welker managed to score a few small commercial roles, but his live-action acting career seemed to fizzle before it started. According to Welker himself, his first commercial role was easy to get, while his second was damn near impossible.
Next time, Autobots, we shall see whose side the newcomers are on.
After obtaining his degree, he began to find his own creative avenues. Welker got into stand-up comedy, where his routines would focus around the many animal impressions he was able to do. Welker had long been obsessed with practicing various animal sounds, and it was a childhood skill that quickly began to pay off as a young adult. His stand-up routine was enough to get the attention of a casting agent. Attending one of Welker's shows, he approached the comedian and asked if he would be interested in voicing the lead dog in a Friskies commercial. Welker agreed, having never taken a voiceover role before. It was a career change that would ripple through entertainment history. He recorded the commercial the next day. During that recording session, he was approached by the same man who offered him another potential opportunity. The advertising exec's fiance was currently working with a major network to cast a brand new cartoon series. Welker was offered the chance to audition for one of the leads, a lanky, stoner-coated amateur paranormal investigator named Shaggy. Welker showed up to audition for the brand new Scooby-Doo series, but he wasn't cast as the iconic dog owner. The role instead went to Casey Kasem, a longtime radio DJ and interview host. Instead, Welker was offered a different role, one that would be with him for the next 60 years. On September 13th, 1969, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Premiered to the world, with Frank Welker in the role of button-down preppy leader, Fred.
Well, gang, it looks like we're up to our armor plates in another mystery.
Over the next decade, Frank Welker would build a substantial career in cartoons and children's television, not only playing Fred Jones, but other needed voices across multiple Scooby-Doo episodes and television movies. He would also provide animal noises and random voices in other hit series, such as DC's Super Friends. He was also the first person to voice the Fantastic Four's loyal robot companion, Herbie, in the new Fantastic Four series. By the time 1980 rolled around, Welker had already built up a substantial resume providing voices for television shows and commercials. However, he was about to make a big leap onto the silver screen. Welker's ability to project various animal sounds was about to launch his career into prolific territory. One of his first uncredited animal noises ended up being the squeaks and chirps of a particularly fascist monkey in Steven Spielberg's iconic first Indiana Jones movie, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
Only 2 years later, he would again lend his growls to another evil animal, playing the voice of rabies-infected St. Bernard, Cujo. He also entered the universe of Star Trek a year after that, when he provided Spock's anguished screams as he regenerated on the Genesis planet. Things began to explode for Welker role-wise, with the actor becoming busier and busier. He played a cat and a troll in the Stephen King anthology Cat's Eye, a disgusting monster in Terror Vision, and a lovable robot named Jinx in Space Camp. One of his biggest roles came in 1984, when he once again worked with Steven Spielberg. Spielberg was producing a new Christmas set horror comedy from director Joe Dante called Gremlins, and they were in need of someone to provide the personality of the little monsters at the film's center. Welker came in and gave life to Stripe, the other Mogwai, and then their transformation into the hideous Gremlins. Welker was also doing very well back in television land. He had continued to voice Fred on multiple versions of Scooby-Doo, as well as other voices as they came up. However, his resume expanded to other children's properties. You could find him playing multiple Smurfs, dogs and cats in shows like Richie Rich, as well as Brain and Dr. Claw in Inspector Gadget, and even Baby Kermit in Muppet Babies. While Fred from Scooby-Doo is one of his most iconic roles, it's not really the one most people would end up knowing him specifically for. That role came in 1984 when he was approached to audition for a new animated series based on a toy line Hasbro had just imported from Japan. Welker's impressive range and skill with voice acting would pay off big time for the producers of Transformers. He was quickly cast as the main antagonist, the evil Megatron. However, his work wasn't done there. Over the course of the 93 episodes and theatrical feature film, Welker would play dozens of Autobots and Decepticons. Welker also got something else out of the role as the despotic Megatron. Since the two first met, Welker and co-star Peter Cullen quickly became close friends. Cullen famously voiced noble hero Optimus Prime, and despite the fact that their characters were enemies, the two actors developed a long-time friendship that continues to this day.
One shall stand, one shall fall. Why throw away your life so recklessly? That's a question you should ask yourself, Megatron.
Welker would also become very busy over the next few decades, providing voices and noises as Hollywood needed. In fact, additional voices is one of Welker's most cited credits, and by 1984 his career was exploding so much that his roles become hard to track. It's at this point where if we were to take the time to list every character he's ever lent a growl or a bark to, this video would be hours long. Needless to say, if you had a beloved cartoon you watched in the 1980s, you definitely heard Welker's voice at some point. By 1990, Welker had been part of major franchises like the Transformers, the DC and Marvel Universe, G.I. Joe, the Ghostbusters, DuckTales, and even My Little Pony. By the 90s, Welker had cemented himself as an important part of the childhoods of hundreds of millions of kids worldwide. His work would practically define the early lives of both Gen Xers and millennials everywhere. The man was even Smokey the Bear. The 90s also ended up becoming very lucrative for Welker. By now, he was becoming Hollywood's go-to guy anytime a strange animal voice was needed, a role that's seemingly been inherited these days by Alan Tudyk.
I went to Juilliard.
He once again returned to the Gremlins series with the cult second installment, and he was in several major Disney productions, providing the voices for Abu, Raja, and the Cave of Wonders in the smash hit Aladdin. He played the monstrous Tokka and Razor in the second Ninja Turtles film, and even Satan himself in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. He played multiple cats, dogs, parrots, and even monkeys. He was iconic creatures such as aliens, Bigfoot, Santa's reindeer, oversized anacondas, and even Godzilla himself. Though my personal favorite is whatever this thing is from Stargate. Through the the 1990s, Welker was involved in nearly every major blockbuster released to cinemas. He worked with directors like Roland Emmerich, Tim Burton, Steven Spielberg, Rennie Harlin, and Paul W.S. Anderson. He was no stranger to television either, continuing on with franchises like the Transformers, but also joining the casts of The Simpsons, Batman the Animated Series, Animaniacs, Gargoyles, and even reprising his film role in Godzilla the Animated Series. Once again, another decade had been very good to Welker, and his credits had exploded into the hundreds. As a voice actor, he was unstoppable, and every casting director in Hollywood had his name on speed dial. He also began to branch out into a brand new medium, one that was slowly beginning to take the world by storm: video games. By the mid-90s, it was rare to have full voice acting in games. Most PC and console games of the 80s and early 90s had to make do with limited technology. However, by 1995, more and more games featured more story and more acting. One of Welker's first major video game roles was the 1996 adventure comedy Toonstruck. Featuring a celebrity cast including Christopher Lloyd, Welker lent his voice to no less than a dozen characters in the game. Over the next 30 years, video games would have Welker reprising some of his most iconic characters, including multiple Transformers. He would also land the role of yet another massively iconic character in 1999, when he joined the cast of the sci-fi animated series Futurama. Welker initially was cast as the voice of Nibbler, a seemingly dull-witted, voracious alien pet belonging to Leela. However, he got the rare opportunity to demonstrate both sides of his voiceover skill when it was revealed that Nibbler was actually a member of a hyper-intelligent and ancient race of beings. Welker provided both the chirps and squeaks, as well as Nibbler's actual deep, authoritative baritone voice.
In the time it would take to pronounce one letter of my true name, a trillion cosmoses would flare into existence and sink into eternal night.
Oh, you're all so cute!
To a lot of younger millennials, Welker is more known for being Nibbler than he was for being Fred or Megatron. All of this work started to pile up financially speaking, and Welker soon found himself one of the highest grossing actors in Hollywood history. Thanks to being a part of some of the most financially successful productions in cinematic history, Welker was racking up billions of dollars of domestic box office gross. This only exploded in the 2000s and 2010s as Welker continued to be a part of major films like Alice in Wonderland, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and Curious George. His iconic television characters also began to make the jump to the big screen. The Transformers were now turning into one of the most profitable film series of all time under auteur action director Michael Bay. Although Bay brought back Peter Cullen as the voice of Optimus, he decided to leave Welker on the bench initially. Frank watched as the role he originated instead went to Hugo Weaving.
Starscream! You left me to die on that pathetic insect planet.
However, by the time the second movie rolled around, Welker did indeed return, only as Soundwave. He was eventually brought back to the Decepticon leader for the fourth film, portraying Megatron's upgraded form, Galvatron. Thanks to the multi-billion-dollar success of Bay's Transformers, by the 2020s, Welker had racked up an estimated $17.5 billion in total box office revenue. This made him the fourth highest-grossing actor of all time. Hollywood has always shown appreciation for Welker's work, and by 2025, the man has worked on well over 950 individual productions. This makes him the most prolific Western actor to ever exist. Given his 62 years in the industry, Welker averaged an astounding 13 productions every year. In 2016, he was honored for his storied career when he was presented with a Lifetime Achievement Emmy, with the organization recognizing his astounding body of work. Welker is currently 79 years old and shows no real signs of slowing down. In the last 10 years alone, he has continued to appear in films, television, and video games. He has also continued on as Fred in various Scooby-Doo productions. Since first taking on the role in 1969, he has played Fred in almost every single appearance of the character. He has also since taken over the role of both Shaggy and Scooby-Doo himself, making him the only original cast member remaining on the series. Multiple generations owe a lot to Frank Welker, and there isn't a corner of the industry that hasn't been touched by his work. Now practically a living legend, he is easily one of the most famous voice actors to ever live. From Scooby-Doo to Transformers, from being part of the Disney Renaissance to the modern Marvel and DC universes, Frank Welker continues to be one of the most important parts of Hollywood history. So what do you think of Frank Welker and his massive and highly influential body of work? What's your favorite role of his? Leave a comment and don't forget to like and subscribe to Cinema Snob. Thanks for watching.